Start with the invocation by Ralph and then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. Please join me. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this rain that we've been getting and so desperately need. We just ask you to be present with us tonight. May this prayer not just be a scheduled agenda item, but just something where we truly open up our hearts and minds and just seek your will in all things we do. We know that all authority comes from you, and we just ask your blessings on every decision we make. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend that we move tab 22 before 21. Both of them potentially pertain to the 1 cent sales tax. Tab 22 is an emergency purchase and higher in priority. I'd like to deal with it first.
Okay. Everybody fine with that?
Yes.
Okay. Here's a paper copy, Howard.
Need a paper copy?
We have item number 10 on consent. We need to move that off consent. We need to make an amendment to that. And also, I have an add-on item as well that I'll need to present at my time.
Is that okay? Yeah. All right. David, you got an item? Papers back in order. All right, anybody else? We've got a motion?
Make a motion.
We'll take this first. Second?
Second.
All for the motion?
Aye.
Passes. You sure? All right. Heather.
Thank you. Your first item is a public hearing to consider, pursuant to previous board direction, repealing section 7.002 of the Wakulla County Code, which is a code provision that's been on your books for a number of years and prevents vehicles and boats on trailers at Mash's Sands boat ramp after sundown. And pursuant to previous board direction, we were asked to bring back an ordinance to repeal this section.
Ralph, I think this is your item, if you'd like to make the motion.
Yep. I move that we approve to conduct the public hearing and adopt the ordinance repealing section 7.002 of the Wakulla County Code of Ordinances related to vehicles and boats on trailers at Mash's Sands boat ramp after sundown.
I second it.
Okay, is there any more discussion?
Yes.
Thank you, Howard.
I'm concerned about someone who has, for example, the annual pass, leaving their trailer or car for a week or two. How do we address that?
Well, we still do have a towing ordinance that is on your books, and we could, I believe we're going to be posting signage that really these lots are only for parking when you are actually using the facility, not for storage. And so in that instance, if we did have, a derelict vehicle or somebody that was leaving things there as extra parking, not when they were actually out on a boat, we could still tow those.
Well, how would we determine that someone that has a nice trailer, leaving it there, is not actually using it for 5 days, 7 days, a month?
Well, that is an enforcement issue, and I believe that you guys currently have a meeting scheduled to discuss how those things are going to be worked out. That's not so much an ordinance issue as a practical enforcement issue, but likely it would involve, tagging the vehicle and see if it's been moved and things such as that.
I think similar to what the Highway Patrol does, probably when a vehicle's on the side of the road, they put a tag on it, and you have a certain number of days to.
So that's yet to be defined.
Yeah, it's not going to be defined in your ordinance. We have a meeting set next week to sit down with the sheriff to go through the details of how everything's going to be enforced, because towing from these facilities is something fairly new in the county. You've not done that before.
Okay, we'll wait to see what comes out of that then.
Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion? Any citizens? All for the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes. We have a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve with the following changes.
Okay, which was pull item
Tab 10.
One second, I just wanted to look at that also. Hold on for a second. I'd like to also pull 11.
Can we do that at this point, or should that have been done under the agenda? Okay, that's fine.
You can do it at any point.
Ralph, is your motion, you take Howard's pull 11?
As modified. So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I second the motion.
All for the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes. David, you wanted to pull item 10?
Yes, this item was request board approval to schedule 2 public hearing dates to adopt the FY 2013-14 tentative and final budget adoption for millage rate for September 5th and 16th. I would request that we change the date from the 5th to the 3rd. That way it's at our regularly scheduled meeting, as well as Commissioner Moore has a conflict. He won't be here on the 5th, so I'd like to change that to the 3rd.
What time?
It'll be during your meeting,
During the regular meeting.
This is the final
That's
budget
right.
hearing?
Mhm.
tentative.
The tentative budget hearing. Should I get a
That's
motion?
fine with me. I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
So we're talking about Tuesday the 3rd?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's our regular scheduled board meetings on Tuesday?
Was it a holiday?
Monday's a holiday.
All right then. All for the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes. Jerry, I assume you said aye. I did. Okay. Howard, you wanted to talk about item 11?
Yeah, the reason why I pulled item 11 is that we're having to modify our ordinance dealing with the historic preservation because of the not having enough people stepping forward to volunteer to be on the committee. This is your county, it's your ordinance, and I just bring this to the attention of the citizens that there are opportunities like this to participate in that are not being filled adequately. So we're reducing the number of people on that committee still to be in concurrence with the obligations that we have, but it's reduced by 2.
I don't know, and I'm not, when I was reading through this, the composition, it says, committee comprises 7 members from the disciplines of architecture, history, architectural history, planning, prehistoric and history archaeology, folklore, cultural anthropology, curation, conservation, landscape architect. I don't know anybody does any of those things, other than landscape, maybe. Louis, I guess, does planning, but they are pretty restrictive on the qualifications you're supposed to have. Like, I don't know anybody that does prehistoric archaeology. But anyway, maybe this will make it a little easier. Any more discussion? All for the motion? Aye?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, Louis?
I didn't see a motion in a second.
All right, let's back up then. Thank you, Evelyn. Is there a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. All for the motion?
Aye.
Thank God we got Evelyn.
Hold on just a second. Miss Evelyn, did they approve the consent agenda?
They did.
Okay.
We're on top of it, David.
Okay, I was just checking on it.
Go ahead, Louis.
All right. Commissioners, this first item is for an application for a variance to construct a utility substation with impacts to wetlands and wetland buffers and providing for a mitigation plan. The next item on the agenda will be the actual site plan.
I gotta swear.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, these are both, the first 2 are quasi judicial, the third one is a legislative item, but for the first 2, since they're related, I will take ex parte communications for both of those items together. If you have, you need to disclose any contact you've received from any interested parties, lobbyists, the applicant, or any other knowledge that you're relying on when you're considering these applications tonight. Commissioner Thomas?
None for me.
None.
No.
None.
No.
Okay. Now, if there is anyone here who's going to provide any information on this application, including the applicant, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Really, sorry.
Yes, Commissioners, this is for impacts to wetlands and wetland buffers. The applicants are proposing to impact .11 acres of wetlands with .02 acres of indirect impacts. On the PowerPoint and in your package, we have the drawing of the impacted wetlands. That's the dark shaded area at the top of the drawing. At the bottom are the indirect impacts at the bottom. There is an area of preserved wetlands in the middle of the middle portion of the site, .21 acres. Again, the applicants do have approval of a mitigation plan approved by DEP for this and by the Corps of Engineers. This item did go to the Planning Commission, and they recommended unanimously for approval of this variance. Staff is recommending also approval of this variance.
Louis, what do you mean when you say indirect impact? Does that mean inside a buffer zone?
That's right.
Is that inside a county buffer zone or a state buffer zone?
It's, when you have direct impacts to wetlands, then you can have secondary impacts. They're not getting into the wetlands, but they are getting close to the
I
wetlands.
understand, but I'm saying, who determined that that was a secondary impact?
Oh, that's state,
So the
yes.
state did, even though they didn't mess with the wetlands, they're making them mitigate for
Close to it.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Secondary impacts. which
that's
means-
correct.
I have a question. So are all of the impacts indirect or secondary, or are we actually filling in wetlands?
They do have direct impacts. The .11 acres is
I just
direct
wanted to
impacts.
clarify that. And could you repeat again the amount that's being filled in?
.11 acres.
Is there a motion on this item?
I make a motion that we approve to conduct the final public hearing and approve the application for variance V13-01 based on the recommendation of the Planning Commission and the findings of fact and conclusions of law made by the board and any other evidence submitted by the hearing hereon.
I second.
Any citizens?
I have another question.
Go ahead, Howard.
Do we know what the mitigation is, that, in other words, what's going to be obtained for the allowing of this filling in of wetlands and whatever?
Yeah, as I understand it, they are contributing to a mitigation bank.
In the county, too, isn't it? Isn't it in Wakulla?
I'm not sure. I guess it's partially
Partially
in
in
the county.
Wakulla and partially in Jefferson
Okay.
County.
Do we know how much land that involves?
It's 4 times the rate of the area impacted, including the secondary impacts.
So, okay, so it'll be close to an acre.
Correct.
Probably more, actually,
Yeah,
if they
for
count
the-
secondary impacts
Yeah,
also.
true. Yep, okay.
Okay, any more discussion? Call for the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Louis?
Yes, this item is, this is for the site plan that's associated with the wetland variance that you just heard. The applicant is available. This is for a substation for this property. It is located on the south side of Coastal Highway, east of Port Leon Drive. Again, this did go to the Planning Commission, and they voted unanimously to recommend approval. Staff is recommending option 1, approval of this site plan.
This didn't meet the threshold for an in-house approval, or is it because of the wetland impacts?
It's because it's a substation.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve.
I second the motion.
Okay, any more discussion?
Yes.
Any citizens? Okay, go ahead, Howard.
Yeah. When I spoke with you, Louis, we talked about light pollution. Do you have any response from the,
Yes, we did. The applicant is available. He's probably better qualified to speak to this, but from what I understand, it is very limited lighting in emergency situations, if they have to do repairs, or if there are security issues.
Howard, do you want to ask the applicant?
Yes.
Sir, do you mind coming up to the podium, sir? You would state your name for the record.
My name is Tom Kilgore with Duke Energy.
okay, so my concern amongst others, the wetlands impacts, getting beyond that to lights.
The default setting for the lights is always off unless we wind up in a situation where we're having a problem with vandalism or a problem with an emergency where we have to repair the station.
Okay, so are you saying to me that the lights, at nighttime, this will be dark except for some structural, like red light or green light at the top of these structures?
There'll only be one light bulb on the control house so they can see to access the main front door, about a 60-watt bulb. Other than that, the entire station will be dark.
Okay.
It doesn't meet the threshold for aerial lighting.
Okay, so I have a question for you, deviating from this right now, and since you're up here and we're talking. You also have a facility it's on 319 in the Medot area that's, I believe, used for storage of vehicles.
I'm not familiar with that.
Duke has taken over this Progress Energy or...
Okay.
Right. Yeah, if you could look into that, that's lit up all the time.
Okay.
And if we can get some modification of that lighting, it would be greatly appreciated.
If you can provide me the address, I'd be glad to look into it.
Howard, I'm sorry, where is that? Is that the one that's kind of off the road a little bit?
Yeah, that's the one we used to
The old
have.
Florida Power office, where the old Florida Power office, you used to go pay your bill there years ago. It's behind that, it's a yard, I guess a work yard.
Are they storing vehicles there
Yeah.
or something?
Yes, and it's really lit up.
I'll find out what's going on with it.
Okay, and could you get back with us?
Sure.
Appreciate
I'll do
that. Thank you. Okay.
Any more questions for the Howard? Okay, Howard?
No, fine.
Good?
Yep.
All right. Any citizens? All for the motion? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, sir. Louis, you again.
All right, Commissioners, this next item is to request board approval to transmit revisions to the public school facilities element and revised capital improvement elements to the comprehensive plan. Basically, these are very simple revisions to reflect the school board's educational facilities work programs. It's primarily dates that have been changed in these elements. And there are data and analysis as well as the actual amendments attached. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend transmittal of this.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any more discussion? All for the motion? Aye. Motion passes. Is Brian actually going to present this, David, or are you going to do it? Okay. Now, myself and Jessica's out, but I'll take care of it. Brian's kind of camera shy. This agenda item requests board approval for the proposed agreement between the county and Wakulla County Horsemen's Association relating to the management and operation of the equestrian center. 2007 FERDAP grant agreement, which we acquired this property or the facility from, included a partnership with the Wakulla County Horsemen's Association. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the proposed management agreement between the county and the Horsemen's Association. The agreement sets forth terms and duties and responsibilities between the county and Wakulla County Horsemen's Association to manage, staff, and operate the equestrian center, for which it is to provide recreational activities and facilities for the use and benefit of the public. This agreement provides both parties an excellent opportunity to provide the public with one of the nicer equestrian and recreational facilities in the Florida Panhandle. The association has been involved in this project since the beginning and has a strong desire and commitment to continue providing their services.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Well, if you prayed for rain, you did a good job, buddy.
Thank you, Jesus.
Any more discussion on this item?
I think it's a needed thing to have this agreement. I think it's good for the county, and I think we're going to see good things coming from it.
I agree. All for the motion? Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Heather, you going to do the next one?
Sure. The next item is requesting board approval of the preliminary rate resolution for solid waste services assessment. This is your
Fire
standard...
was the next one.
Oh, I skipped ahead, sorry.
All right, everybody makes mistakes.
Same thing for fire. The preliminary rate resolution sets the preliminary assessment rates, adopts the method of apportionment, establishes your public hearing, which will be on September 3rd, in accordance with state statute, and provides for the required statutory notice. The rates are not proposed to increase. They will be the same as they were approved last year, which is $75 per dwelling unit, 6 cents per per square foot for non-residential property and 17 cents per acre for land. We're recommending approval.
Is there a motion?
Before we do that, I just want to just clarify, this means it just stays what it was last year, right? No increase?
Correct.
That is correct.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I have a question. On the 17 cents on land, what does the fire department, what is their responsibility on land?
There's two things. One, the county does have to pay the State Division of Forestry 7 cents per acre to respond to all land, and then the county also responds and assists if there's a wildland fire.
Okay, any more discussion?
Just one comment, I'd just like to, when it comes back, to also have the numbers for the folks that are eligible for the exemption to be included in the item also.
The income limitations?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it's a good idea. All for the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes. Heather again.
Thank you. The next item is the same item, the preliminary rate resolution for solid waste services. This is the first step, as you just took with fire, to reimpose the solid waste assessment. This approves the preliminary rates, adopts a method of apportionment, establishes the public hearing date of September 3rd, and provides for the required statutory notice, and we're recommending approval. As with the fire resolution, the amount is not projected to increase from last year. It is going to stay the same at $196.
Make a motion, we adopt the preliminary rate resolution for solid waste services.
Second.
Motion at second. David, I assume someone really is keeping an eye, because there were several things. There was a diesel fuel cost, if I remember correctly, and then the number of customers. I know we're not growing much, but we are growing some, so I guess it's coincidental that the increase in cost that they're obviously seeing is offset by the increase in number of homes. It's probably not exactly 196, but they just don't want to change it, and they're certainly probably not going to lower it.
No, they're not going to lower it, and there's a possibility of next year, I would think, from Race Pro, some sort of adjustment upwards, but right now we haven't had that official word. We've kind of got a preliminary shot at it.
Only justified with diesel costs.
That's right.
Right? And they
That's
have
right.
documented, and
That's
it's
right.
not, if I remember, it's only a component of it, right?
That's right. And we've got that projected in our plan as well. A increase, but, hopefully it's not a huge one, so.
But this is the third year that you've been able to keep it at the same level.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Yeah, this does not, in this document, are we addressing the level at which we set the hardship?
No.
No.
Well, no, the hardship is, the level is the same. It's the extremely low income. It's in section 7 of the resolution. It's the same as what was set last year. We're not changing.
30% of the HUD limit, I think.
Yes.
Shot will be later on to adjust that.
We were waiting for the HUD
Right.
income limits to come out.
We can change it in the final if need be. But
Right.
right now it's set.
Okay, so my two concerns there are, one, how we shake this out and set that limit, and the second is on people who are self-employed. And I had a citizen call me about, if you take that first line of gross revenue to that citizen, that really is not his income, because he has all the expenses of the business to pay out of it. How do we address that?
It's not adjusted gross revenue?
No, it's gross across the board. The reason being is, just like, that's the reason we don't take the adjusted on a personal income tax as well. It's all based on gross revenue.
That's a good point, Howard.
Well, yeah, it just seems that we need to...
Well, the problem is, you can, you can make a business look like whatever you want to, so, and that was the problem. That was the only true mechanism that you had to really rate these is based on gross, and that's what other folks do as well, is it's purely on gross personal and gross business.
And this is only available to homesteaded residential
Right.
property. So, it's not, and solid waste only applies to residential, but the hardship is only available for
Correct.
homestead residential.
But we would be talking to somebody like a fisherman, for example, or something like that, that's,
Or someone that has his own construction business and is operating out of, he wakes up in the morning, goes and buys supplies,
Right.
works his day, buys supplies the next day. All those supplies are taken off of his gross revenues.
And you can adjust to that, but understand is you're playing that game.
I know we're not addressing this now.
That's right.
Maybe we could look at those that are self-employed, we could use their adjusted, I don't know. But anyway.
Yeah, and what you're talking about, the final determination of that rate or the income level, last year we made the mistake of approving that prior to the HUD coming out, the new HUD coming out, so this year we're waiting on that to make that final determination will be when that HUD document comes out.
I'd be interested in exploring that as well, because we're basing it on the HUD income limits, and, for folks that are qualifying for HUD loans, FHA loans, it's not based off the gross, it's based off the adjusted gross, and so, I think it'd be worth looking at.
More discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes. Heather?
The next item is a request board direction regarding the conveyance of a piece of property from Gray Services 1, Inc. in lieu of satisfying outside code enforcement liens. The piece of property is at 28 Pam Drive. There are some significant lien amounts on there, and there's also a need right now to clean up a portion of the property, which is in fairly bad state of disrepair. I know the county staff has gotten a lot of calls on it, and you also may have fielded some of those calls yourself. The property owner, in lieu of paying off the outstanding liens, which total over $60,000 at this point, he has offered to convey the property to the county. The county would then own the property, be responsible for cleaning it up. I believe the quote that we've received is somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,000 to $7,000 to do the cleanup.
That's roughly the value of the property as well, right?
More than value of the property.
As of this afternoon, the owner of the property has agreed verbally to pay the outstanding tax certificate amount of $505.09, so that the county would not have to pay that off if, in the event you chose to accept conveyance of this property.
This is definitely we're not gonna make money on this, but
No.
I personally think it's something that needs to be done.
I have one concern, and it's not really going to probably affect the outcome, but, when this was first brought up about 3 or 4 months ago, I think it was about 4 months ago, initially it was brought, at that time it said the person's fines was totaling around $45,000. So in 4 months' time, it's gone from $45,000 to $60,000. And that was where I had brought up in the past about just how fast these fines accrue, and it gets so far out of sight so fast.
I don't, the amount of the fines is related.
But this is something the owner's voluntarily going to do.
Yes. It was the owner's idea.
Okay.
He brought it to the county. It was not something the county pursued independently.
Now, on the question, you said it's going to cost $7,000 to clean it up?
I believe the latest quote that code enforcement received was somewhere between 6 and 7.
Okay, having said that, is there no mechanism by which we can have the owner clean that up?
Well, you do have an option. If you do not want to accept conveyance of the property, the county could go out there and clean it up. And then we did discuss briefly during your code enforcement workshop, and I've done some research on it since then and sent some stuff to code enforcement to review. And I believe Jamie's going to bring it to the code board at their next meeting. And that is a process whereby the amount of cleanup costs could be put onto the tax bill as an assessment in the following year.
The tax bill on what, that piece of property?
For the piece of
Well, that piece of property has essentially no value.
Well, exactly.
Is that our only remedy?
You can keep your lien, you can sue to foreclose on the property, you can sue the owner in lieu of foreclosure, you can sue the owner of the property for the amount. But in both of those instances, it's unknown whether you would be able to recover that.
I know. Never get it.
I've got some comments. I did a little looking at it, and, it looks to me that thing, it might be worth $4,000 to $5,000 on a good day after it's cleaned up.
Yep.
If we take this, we're absolutely taking a financial burden, and, you know, if we were flush with cash, I'd say it might be worth doing that. You know we've got 5 weeks' worth of reserves, and to me, this is just not a time to take that. I've got some photos, if everyone would like to see. This is exactly what we're talking about here, and I know it needs to be cleaned up. I know it's in bad shape, but, you know, if we take this, we're spending good taxpayers' money for something that's not their responsibility.
I have maybe a question. If forget the fines and all that stuff. We really shouldn't take this property and for us to take it and clean it up, why don't we just take it and send out a notice that anybody who wants to bid on this property can bid on it, and the bid includes the cleaning it up? Is there anything wrong with that? It keeps us from having to clean it up, and somebody will clean it up. It won't cost Joe Blow $7,000 to clean it up. And we say that he has 90 days in which to clean it up, and then title will pass over to him. It gets it cleaned up, and we still take the $500 that we asked for. But as we sit here, we're sort
Basically,
of...
marketing the property as is. I mean,
Basically giving it away, I think is what it's
Yeah.
saying. You can have a lot if you'll clean it up.
You can basically put it on the market, and somebody will offer you $500. It's worth, well, somebody might offer you $3,000 or whatever. That's $3,000 that we don't have, and under that marketing is that they buy it and they got 90 days to clean it up.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So if someone would buy it for $3,000, we're estimating that it costs $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 to clean it up. We're up to $8,000 to $10,000 for a piece of property we're saying is worth $4,000 to $5,000. I don't see many people jumping at that opportunity. But it also brings us back to when this board forgives code enforcement fines, that money could have been sitting there right now for us to have gone and cleaned up this property or done whatever we wanted to do with this property, and the cash would have been there, and we don't have it right now. So I just want to bring the past to the present.
I got a call from a citizen. They're concerned, obviously, by Ralph's pictures, that kids can get in there and mess around. I like Jerry's idea if we could do that. I mean, I know some people that may take it for the cost of cleaning it up.
Why don't we work that deal without actually acquiring the property, so we don't have to pay the registration fees? I know we've already spent the title search on it, but, well, why don't we put that offer out there that if somebody wants to take it over, assuming Gray Services would agree to it, then, maybe a commitment that we'll forgive the fines and they just take it, because if they've got to pay any amount of fines and clean up, there's no way it's going to be financially beneficial. Probably the only people that would even be interested is maybe adjoining property owners, and they might be willing to incur the cost of cleaning it up. And
How many lots is it, one or two?
Two.
You just do that with the caveat that Gray can't take it, or his friends can't take it, or his mother, and
But we don't own this property right now.
No, yeah, we
This is
would,
not our property to decide what to do with at this point in time, and I don't think we should decide that at this point in time without having,
How much is
I don't think we're ready to do that.
How much would it cost to transfer it to our name?
To-
Title search?
we've already done the title
Stamps.
search. We don't pay dock stamps if it goes to the county, so.
I like Jerry's idea a lot, I really do, but if his idea doesn't work, I think we should clean it up. Because I think it's a public nuisance, and
I think my idea will work. There's any number of people who would like to have a piece of land, they'll clean it
Your
up.
idea can work, it's just, I think, before we do that, we need to own the property first.
Fine enough, not a problem.
if it's two lots, I think it can happen, to be honest with you.
why
'Cause
can't
that
we
means
just
you
put the
don't-
offer out there and see if there's a potential buyer before we do that? And I know
think
we're
we
not
have any
making-
need to own the
I don't think
property.
we have the authority to make an offer, because we don't
Making an offer on private land.
own it.
Well, I mean, we're not negotiating with them, we're just putting a statement out there. If somebody wants to buy it, they can buy it from Mr. Gray or do a deed transfer. If he's willing to give it to us, he's willing to give it to anyone.
How would we attach conditions to that, though? We don't have the authority to say you can only buy this if you clean it up. For all we know, somebody could buy it and still not clean it up.
Well, we still have the ability to go after them. We haven't lost anything there. Only thing we're potentially losing is additional cost to our taxpayers.
I personally think that we should go ahead and take the property and then try Jerry's idea. And I think for $6,000, we can get somebody to take it. If it's 2 lots, that means you don't have to do a performance-based septic tank. Somebody might want something to put a rental on or something.
Yeah, we
So
don't need to clean it up. We need to let
I think that'll
somebody-
work.
In April 2013, the lot sold for $3,500. In October 2010, a lot sold for $3,500.
Single lot or double lot?
Single lot. But both of those were contiguous lots where the buyer already owned. The only other recent sales I found in 2000 and 2011 were multiple lots that averaged $1,583 a lot and $1,625 a lot. So we may end up, this thing only be worth $3,000 in pristine condition.
After spending several thousand to even acquire it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to reiterate what I had said earlier. I'm just not in favor of the county, getting in the business of acquiring people's property. I understand, but he's given it to us as a result of, basically the deal he's given, either pay $45,000 or sign over your land. That's basically the only deal that he's been offered.
So
He came to us.
No, so my understanding that those photos that Commissioner Thomas showed us, and if you visited the property, probably have, I know I have, that that's okay for the county to say, let's leave it like this, because we don't want to buy anyone's property, we don't want to take away. We have an obligation to protect the other citizens in this county. That's part of our job.
It's a great idea when you have the money to do things like that.
I'm saying...
We don't have the money.
I am not for taking this over at this point in time. Let me be clear on that. But I am not supporting an attitude that says anyone can leave their property in that condition and we should not be doing anything about it. There's two different issues there.
Doesn't sound like there's Fowler, so Howard, you're not in favor of accepting the property? Is that what you just said?
I'm not in favor of the board taking any action at this point in time.
And Richard, you said you're not. Ralph, I don't think you are. All right, so unless you're making a motion, you're flying alone. I don't know what we're going to do now, but
I don't know, they voted down. I make the motion that the county accept the property, put it on the market, and take whatever we can get.
and with the caveat that the owner pays the back taxes.
That's with the caveat, the owner pays the back taxes and has 90 days in which to clean it up.
No. Grave Services pays the back taxes that are owned on it.
That's correct.
We just take title to the property.
That is correct.
I just talked to Cleve, and if we were to take the property, we could, Cleve would clean it up using our county equipment and their time. So there may be some hauling fees or disposal fees of some of the stuff there, but we would be able to do it without cost to the county other than those hauling fees.
I just know what some folks figure as a price to clean up. I don't figure that that same price.
Well, I mean, this would take out us hiring a private contractor. We would do it in-house.
Yeah.
Do we have a ballpark or a not-to-exceed amount that,
We talked about maybe $1,000, $1,500. There's also scrap metal there. We could sell the scrap, so.
Cleve wants that metal to take home with him.
Yeah.
well, they've already stripped all the siding off the mobile home.
She's got the underbidding, I think.
Yeah.
There may be some salvage value out there. We've looked at the property, but, if it takes 4 or 5 dumpsters, it's all hauled 100 miles from here. That's why we don't have a landfill today, because you dispose of nothing in this county. So I don't think Marpan will even take this, so it's going to have to go to a Class 1 landfill, and you've got 2 options, and that's in Georgia and South Alabama. So those are the hard costs. It's going to be the transport. We can do it during a normal work hour, which you've already paid us for our time. We won't be working on the road that day. We'll be cleaning up this piece of property.
Right.
But, and we don't mind doing that. But the hard cost is going to be the transportation disposal, which I just don't have a handle on it, because we didn't estimate it that close.
But you think 1,500 would be reasonable, wouldn't?
I would say, with the transportation is what I'm not sure about, Commissioner, because we don't have since we don't have the solid waste division anymore, we don't have the dumpsters to haul it in. And our dump trucks aren't set to haul this type of debris. So we're going to have to contract the hauling out. Mm-hmm. And the hauling...
We just have to get a roll-off.
Probably a roll-off, and we try to work with Waste Pro.
So we can probably work with Waste Pro.
They have been good about in the past. I mean, they'll charge the county a fee, but they have been fair about the fees.
let's just say $2,000. I could get comfortable with that, and that way the problem is solved. We're not taking the property. They've agreed to, or he's agreed to deed the property, and if we can control the cost to our taxpayers, I think that would be beneficial.
Money ahead.
And then put it back.
Yeah, I could go along with it.
And then put it on the market.
I'll go along with it as well.
I still don't think we're gonna make any money off of this. It's such a marginal deal, but at least the problem will be solved. It'll be cleaned up, and there'll be no major.
I'm going to go along with it, but the only reason is because the owner doesn't have any intention of cleaning it up themselves. The owner themselves is the one that told the county that they basically had the property, so the owner would not have to pay this exorbitant amount of fees, but only because this is a voluntary action initiated by the owner, I'm going to vote with it, but it doesn't mean in the future I'm going to vote for every time that we want to acquire someone's property.
Well, and I'll go back to...
Appreciate the offer, Cleve.
Thank you.
What is a $2,000 figure, but then we have to figure whatever time our county is not doing its normal work, whatever that is expressed in, that's going to be $1,000 or more. So whatever that is. So we have really unknown estimates, or unknown guesses of what the property is. Going back to, if we don't collect our fees, if we don't make people pay for their not complying, then we're in this hole and we don't have the money to fix it up, and we're scrambling around like we are today.
Okay.
More discussion?
I guess I'll revise my motion. I'll do a revision on my
It's gonna be
motion.
the same motion.
Okay.
You're just accepting the property, and Gray Services pays the back taxes, not the county.
That's
Same
correct.
motion. Okay,
That's correct.
Second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any more discussion? All for the motion? Aye. Motion passes. All right.
Was it all in favor, or was there?
Yes. All right, we wanted to do item 22 first. Cleve?
Yeah, I'll get it started, and Cleve's going to be here, as well as Baskerville Donham is here to discuss the item. If you guys have any questions, this agenda item requests board approval to waive county purchasing policy and advertise requirements in section 255.05 for emergency repairs to the Wakulla River Upper Bridge. Approved Baskerville Donham Task Order Number 2, authorized the county administrator to negotiate pricing with Southern Concrete in an amount of not to exceed $196,161, and in accordance with the terms of the county standard construction agreement, and authorize the chairman to sign the construction agreement. We have staff in Baskerville Donham has determined that this is an emergency repair based on the critical state of the bridge and the need to have the repairs completed by the start of the new school year to prevent interruption of bus traffic. Therefore, staff is requesting that the board waive the county purchasing policy and advertise provisions of 255. With that,
Does anybody want to go ahead and make a motion, or do y'all need to hear about this, what it is?
I move to approve. Item 1.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Any questions? Good. Any citizens? All for the motion? Aye. Thanks for coming, Cleve. All right, let's go on
and you all understand where the funds are coming from this, right?
1 cent sales tax.
This comes from the 1 cent sales tax, that's right, and it was budgeted this year to cover this. We'll pull a little bit of the money. If we can't negotiate a lower price, there'll be a small amount that we'll pull from our road striping. But we think we won't have to do that.
So you're saying the money is coming from 12-13 or 13-14?
From this year's budget, 12-13.
Okay.
Right.
This is another reason why I think we need a strong reserve, this and the next item. When items come up, we have money to pay for.
That's right.
All right. Are you going to present, or Sheree with the next one?
I'll present this one. This agenda item requests board approval of the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service Watershed Protection Recovery Program Matching Grant Award for Mill Creek, Bostic Pelt, Buckhorn Creek and Surf Road, Walker Creek Road at Shell Point, and Municipal Avenue at Sopchoppy. That one has been taken off the, we've already taken care of that one. These three projects, we have had multiple problems in the past. Once we had storms, we applied for a FEMA mitigation grant, and we worked through the process thanks to my staff, and worked through all of it to where basically we can make the repairs on these projects. Each three of these We can make these repairs for just 25 cents on the dollar to the county taxpayers. The problem is, if we don't make the repairs to them, FEMA in the future will not reimburse us if there's further problems at these properties. So therefore, I request that we move forward with approval to for Bostic Pelt, Surf Road, and Walker Creek, and/or a combination thereof.
To clarify, the two projects we're talking about?
3 projects altogether, but the ones that I have talked to each one of you about recommending was Walker Creek Road and Bostic Pelt Road. I'm sorry, I'm holding holding up, sir. That is, Katie, there you go. But that's Bostic Pelt. That was right after Tropical Storm Debbie. That's where we want to install 2 head walls to help fortify that, because it was a head wall collapse and it rode around the pipe. Let's see. Go to the next slide there, Katie. This thing is not. This is Walker Creek. This is at Shell Point. This has been an ongoing issue, as many of you know, for quite a long time. We've got an eroding roadway. It's also eroding at the pavement area. The idea is to come in, and Alan Wise is here if you want to talk to him about it, but also Alan. I'm sorry, Alan, I didn't give you, Alan was the one that helped us get these, he helped push through, but Alan can speak to this, but basically we're going to come in and put a bulkhead, lower bulkhead along the waterway there, and then restabilize that slope.
I got a couple questions for Alan on that one.
Okay, Alan? Sorry, Alan, I did not mean to omit you.
No problem.
Alan,
Good evening.
What's your plan? I mean, is it to bring the entire road level up? How tall the sheet pile is going to stick out of the water, for example, and?
With Walker Creek, the very first thing we're going to have to do after we get a survey is have a meeting with Army Corps, because I believe that they're going to limit how far off the roadway we can go. We have had some preliminary discussions with them, and they're going to be real interested in seeing how much impacts to wetlands and that whole slope they're considering wetlands we have. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, depending on how far out they let us go is how high up that.
I'm not interested in making a full 20-foot, full 60-foot right-of-way and pay, because it's only like, what, 6, 7 houses down there, and there's not even a cul-de-sac to turn around.
Well, actually, this is occurring down the entire length of that roadway, so the paved portion is seeing some pretty nasty subsidence as well. There's several areas, if you get across the canal and look back where the water main is exposed, there's fire hydrant just kind of hanging out in the middle of the air. The soil is pulling away from the back of the curb. There's a few areas where you can see behind and underneath the curb and gutter along the paved portion as well. So I want to be clear that this is the unpaved portion and the paved portion where we're proposing these improvements.
My point is, I guess if there's a way to do it if we could do a short head wall and then slope it back up to the road, because like I said, we don't think we need a full county standard road here, but I've been dealing with this for at least 10 years.
Right.
We had talked about maybe a knee wall, if we can get it approved, just put a knee wall in.
It's going to be fully dependent on the design once we figure out how far away from that back of curb or edge of pavement that we're allowed to put the.
What I'm saying is we may not need to go all the way that's allowed. Go ahead, Howard.
Yeah, do we have any estimate from historical data of where that land really went to when the road was established?
Yes, we do, and you do have a full 60-foot, or maybe 50-foot right-of-way in there, but we're talking about between, I'd say between 6 and 10 feet off the back of curb or edge of pavement right there is where we're going to be limited to. We're not talking about going out into the canal. We're going to be back landward of the water line throughout the entire length of that project.
This is just an estimate. It just seems a little high to me, but I'm not in the pile driving business.
2,100 feet of
steel pile,
of sheet pile with a cap. Yes, sir. We're also going to have some riprap and dewatering, a fair amount of sod. It's And there's a good chance that the bid could come in lower than this. And the funding agreement is that they'll pay 75% of the eligible construction costs up to an amount, and then the county would be responsible for 25% of the eligible construction costs up to an amount. So if it comes in lower, then that just means county's match is lower and federal match is lower.
This being a federal funded, we can't give local preference either, right?
That's right. Now, one of the things we're going to do is we've got to do soil borings to find out how deep the rock is, and that will determine what type of bulkhead we'll go with. If the rock is right there, then we'll have to go with steel sheets. If not, we could maybe go with a vinyl.
Vinyl will be a lot cheaper, right?
Is there any plan to put in a cul-de-sac or a public turnaround? I mean, as it stands now, you have to pull in someone's driveway in order to get out of there.
Not with this project. This project is simply to protect and restore what was in existence. You know, once we obtain that, I'm not sure what other, you know.
We'll look at that.
Right.
We'll look at that.
You'd have somebody up
This
there on
goes
the property.
Local people can bid on this, of course.
But yeah, there is no preclusion that someone.
But there's not a local preference on this.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
The turnaround, someone made a comment about buying private property, but if at that point of the turnaround, the county feels, I'm not saying yes or no, but if the county felt that the turnaround was necessary there, then out of our own pocket, we could modify that end terminal there to grab some more land that we wouldn't be grabbing now. I'm not saying to do it, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's a public road, so if someone drives down that road, they're going to have to go into someone's driveway, or they're going to have to back out a half a mile to get back out of there. And so, you know, it seems to me, since it is a public road, that we need to have some way, if we can, if we've got enough room there, you know, to put that in, and I'd be interested to see.
Maybe once we get it fixed, they'll want to take it back over and make it private. Gate it. It does serve those nice.
Oh, you're saying you hope they would.
I didn't say that. I said maybe they will. Any more questions for Alan?
What is the status of the Surf Road one, if you would?
Surf Road, Alan, you want to explain what you're going to be doing there?
Yes, I'm not sure if you guys remember, and I apologize for not sticking a picture up there of that one. The wing walls kind of failed, and then the swirling water came back next to the box culvert and ate out. Well, that's federal aid highway, and DOT actually put in a emergency repair. DOT came and repaired that. They did no upgrades in order to prevent it from occurring again. In order to prevent it from occurring again, I believe that we would need to push that head wall out 10 or 12 feet, put one single head wall, and then riprap stabilization coming up to that crossing in all three locations on both sides of the roadway.
And the reason I didn't recommend that is this a federal road, and, you know, FEMA doesn't, they didn't fund us on a lot of stuff on our federal roads, as well as I just didn't see, you know, it's just, it's tough sticking money on a federal road, county money.
But it is ultimately a county.
Ultimately is ours, but at the end of the day, the federal government should be helping us out here, and they're not.
They're not going to.
No.
So either we fix it like this, or we don't fix it.
And that road wasn't passable during Tropical Storm Debbie.
Not at all.
Yeah. So it certainly impacts our citizens.
Do we have a motion or no?
No, not yet. No. It's another $100,000, $24,000, which is the county. We're getting ourselves into large numbers in the county. We're just looking at the two projects.
The 300, these, if you funded all three, or any combination of those would come out of 1 cent sales tax roads, and we would reduce the new paving. We would propose to reduce in next year's budget the new paving take this money out of the new paving. Therefore, whatever you take out of here, we just reduce the new paving by that amount. We have $425,980 allocated for new paving next year.
This is sort of like a stitch in time saves nine, because it's a question, you don't have a choice. If you don't fix it at roads, so if we don't fix Surf Road, if we have a rain, people need to get out of town, they can't get out Surf Road, they can't get through Panacea, so they may be stuck on the bridge.
You don't have many times that you can get 25 cents on a dollar.
And that's the other thing.
Hopefully, these cost estimates will come down when we get real numbers.
And we will do what we can throughout the whole process to keep these as low as possible.
I'm shocked that Bostic pellet's that cheap. Is that just a box culvert or something?
Actually, it's head walls, riprap, and
Culverts are still good?
the culverts are still good. It's in the condition that
You know,
they're
we've
in.
always had problems with the years of that not being wide enough and it eroding right there. Cleve will remember that, where it runs off Bostic pelt, so I'm sure you'll address that too.
Yes.
Can we get a motion on the item then?
I'd like to make another comment if I can.
Yeah, go ahead, Ralph.
I'm opposed to pull the money out of the current paving budget. That $425,980 in our proposed budget was preliminarily earmarked for paving loop roads in Wakulla Gardens, and we've been talking about that some time. We know we've already allocated the money for the Upper River Bridge on our last item. My priority would be, let's go ahead and stick to that Wakulla Gardens paving. Let's do the Bostic Pelt. Let's do the Surf Road. That doesn't leave us enough money for the Walker Creek. I certainly hate missing on the grant and missing the opportunity, but, we can keep finding good reasons not to pave those roads in Wakulla Gardens that we've been talking about for years, and I'd like to see us stick to that.
There are also other roads that are on that list also.
Absolutely.
As far as road paving.
I hate to see us miss the opportunity to get 25 cents on the dollar, so I'm going to support all three.
I agree with what Ralph said, with basically an exception. If we were talking about paving a new road prior to Wakulla Gardens, or if we were talking about just improving a road prior to Wakulla Gardens. But if we've got roads washing out that the county is responsible for, it's hard to, and we're getting 75 cents on the dollar. But I would totally agree with you that if it's in fact, the way I'm going to vote, if there's any road that's going to be any new paving, it's got to go to Wakulla Gardens first. But if we have to do repair, then basically I just don't.
Well, in next year's budget, we have $325,000 between two sidewalk projects that we're currently trying to get CRTPA to approve. That's $125,000 or $150,000 there, and then we have $175,000 of road striping. We're in dire need of road striping, but you could, and then you got $425,980 in new paving. So between all those, if you so wanted to, you could do all three, and we just wouldn't do the. We hopefully won't have to use the sidewalk money. That's what I'm hoping for.
You're saying we got 400 and something thousand for new paving?
For new paving, $425,980.
I basically will object to that unless that money goes to Wakulla Gardens.
We've got 325, well, that's yet to be determined. You guys haven't determined what roads that's going to pave. All we've done is just, we put a paving. And then you've got an additional $325,000 that's two sidewalk projects, one in Panacea and one in here, but we've also applied for CRTPA money to do those projects, and then road striping of $175,000.
Even if you're paving my driveway, I will object unless we get Wakulla Gardens.
I understand. I was just telling you your financing options.
So what's the figure we would be looking at to do the three? Would be the 979
$326,000 is the county.
326.
Out of our pocket.
out of our pocket, 326.
And the total project values are $1.3 million. So we're getting $1 million free, basically.
Yeah, it's just hard to turn down that, on something that we absolutely have to do. I have some thoughts on this that are very sensitive, but...
But I also agree that we don't need to lose sight of Wakulla Gardens, but I think we don't need to lose sight of this grant money either. So I'll be going with accepting this grant to be able to do this, but I think at the same time, we don't need to lose sight of Wakulla Gardens.
Exactly.
Because Wakulla Gardens is very important, but all of these are important, and we do have a potential funding source here,
And what we can do is, if you guys vote on...
Is that a motion? Is that a motion to do all three?
Well, if we do all three, I want to go back to what you were talking about. If we do all three, and our match is 326, that's us getting the grant to fix, okay, what's the soonest we would still be able to go back and do Wakulla Gardens?
Well, that's what I was going to tell you, is what we can do if you guys, whatever you vote on tonight, what we'll do is go back and realize this is in our budget for next year. What we'll do is we'll go back and we'll take our paving plan and we'll take Wakulla Gardens, or we'll give you a mileage, here's how much it's going to cost per mile, and we'll give you a plan, here's what we can do in Wakulla Gardens with the remainder of the money that is left. And we can, that's for this year, for next year's budget, then you guys can decide what you want to do with that, but we'll fit it in here, then tell you how much is left, and then you can take off, and we'll give you some other options on other roads and stuff like that, and then you guys can decide.
If we pull out the striping and the sidewalks, can we do the entire $425,000?
Yeah, it comes up to $325,000, so yeah.
So we could do as planned with Wakulla Gardens?
That's right.
And then
You still have the $425,000 for paving, which our initial is Wakulla Gardens. So.
Right.
But you may be able to, according to what you vote on, you may be able to do some of Wakulla Gardens and another road somewhere, possibly, I don't know.
I just want to, I agree with you on that. I don't want to give up.
We don't need to give up Wakulla.
I don't want to give up.
I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying.
I don't want to give up. We've been talking, as long as we've been talking about Wakulla Gardens paving, we've been talking about sidewalks for the people in Panacea to keep those folks from getting run over.
And like I say, we've applied to the CRTPA and the state DOT to do that under a safety grant. So, and it looks pretty positive. So I think, and I'd stuck this money here just in case they didn't do it. We'd have some money to do something next year to make it safer. So it looks like they're going to do that, though.
However you do, I just want to make sure that we don't pave anything new until we pave Wakulla Gardens Loop Road.
Okay, Richard's going to make
I'm going to make the motion, but the reason I'm making the motion that I'm making is because from what I've heard, we were able to both do this and receive the federal money in order to be able to do Walker Creek Road and the other, and have a future plan to still do Wakulla Gardens. So, I put on the form of the motion.
Second that motion.
Is there a motion, a second? Ed?
For all three roads?
All three.
It's for all three, Boston Pelt Road, Surf Road, and Walker Creek Road.
The only thing that I would say, and that's fine, is, and you're right, Ralph, Surf Road was cut off, but at the end of the day, if it gets cut off, it doesn't affect anybody's house. You know, because you got other means to get in and out, and it also, so therefore, and it's not it's a good corridor, but it's not a main corridor. So that was the only reason I had put that, probably on my list of number 3.
Don't do Surf Road?
No, he's saying do it.
Well, no, I'm just saying, it's up to you guys naturally, but still, that's the reason I put it down at the bottom, is if it was to wash out, we could close Surf Road and it not affect the county.
Then we'd have to fix Surf Road. It probably costs a lot more than $97,000.
That's right, but that's the reason I put it on number 3 on my list.
I'm going to keep my motion as we've got it.
Ed, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. We appreciate you guys doing this. I think anybody agrees that spending 25 cents on the dollar is a pretty good deal for the county. I am a member of the Wakulla County Soil and Water Conservation Board. I'm joined here tonight by Alan Lofton, and we work on a monthly basis with the Natural Resources Conservation Services, and one of our focuses is erosion in the county. This board was set up originally for farms and teaching farmers how to prevent erosion and that sort of thing, and so we're very happy that you guys are working with the USDA to prevent these problems that have been problems for years, and so we just wanted to express our support for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
I just want to clarify and make sure I understand it. So what we're talking about, as approved, is we would accept all 3 projects, Bostic Pelt, Surf Road, Walker Creek, and we will still have $425,000 that we can put to paving as proposed Wakulla Gardens, but that could go.
That's right.
425.
That's not in the form, his motion is just to accept the 3.
I just want to make sure that the numbers are right before we get boxed in. Out of money.
So I'll make a comment also on it may not seem like something that may be important but the striping of the roads is important to a lot of our citizens as a safety issue. It's not just an aesthetic thing.
As on sidewalks.
Absolutely. Yeah. But the striping of the roads when you're traveling at 40 miles an hour, whatever it is, in a 2,000-pound vehicle.
I think they're gonna have to do a lot of figuring, after they know what we're gonna do on this side, I'm sure there's a lot of discussion on that.
We'll provide you some options, we'll take care of that during our budget workshop.
Well, and if we got to the point where we were short on money and, say couldn't do the Walker Creek, just take you back a year or so ago, the folks in Wakulla Gardens were offered to self-assess and pay for themselves their paved roads, and obviously they voted not to do that, but that same offer could be extended to the folks on Walker Creek if we were short. I just think that, the time has come that we need to do something out there in Wakulla Gardens.
And I'm not gonna beat this to death, but just remember, there's been roads promised for at least 10 or 15 years to be paved too, so
Right.
we just need to remember that.
So what is the timeline on this? If this board votes to accept, or to go ahead with all three, when does that commitment take place?
Right, Alan, can you walk them through the timeline, please?
This particular funding program is extremely fast. They prefer that you have everything constructed and all work done within 120 days. That won't occur. We'll end up needing to request at least one 60-day extension. It's common for that to occur, and it's common for them to grant it. I can tell you that on the design and bidding end, it will occur as fast as possible. The construction, since we're dealing with drainage issues, basically, is largely dependent upon the weather. I've got 6 of these same types of projects under construction right now that have been on hold for about 3 weeks for obvious reasons, and that's the weather. So I guess to answer your question, you can expect them to be completed within 180 days, as long as we don't have any huge weather concerns.
180?
180 days.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All for the motion? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, Richard?
All right. Okay, what I want to submit to you tonight,
Go ahead.
what I was wanting to submit to you tonight, at the last meeting, we talked about making revisions to the wetlands ordinance, and I got to looking more about it, and the bulk of the counties in the state, they defer to the Water Management District, and they defer to DEP in order to handle the permitting process. And I've tried to spend as much time reading about it just to see what it is they would do, and I attached several things in here in my attachment. I attached the Florida Administrative Code. I've attached the Florida Administrative Code. I've attached Senate newsletters and different things to show that there's many laws already on the books to govern the wetlands in our county. But what I'm proposing is that just we revert back to what we were doing before we adopted it, what we adopted in 2010. And I wanted to put it before consideration of the board. To just totally repeal it and to go back to what we were doing before we had it. And this is really a property rights issue with me as well. Of property owners that want to have use of their property. You have people who have nail lots, they want to use it, but the problem with the one problem I see what we were proposing a month ago is the 75-foot variance would only come into effect if someone didn't have any other land to build upon. So basically, so if someone's got a couple acres that happens to be on the water, they're still barred from use of 75 foot of their land from the water. Anyway, I see that as being very restrictive, and I wanted to propose it to the board to possibly consider repealing the ordinance completely, but as I understand, also talking to Heather and Sonoza, that first of all, we would have to do it through the comp plan. We would have to first repeal the comp plan first, then repeal the ordinance, because if we just do the ordinance, we still got the comp plan that's there. So part of my motion that I'm going to be making is for us to first repeal the comprehensive plan portion of this first, and then as well as the ordinance.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I second that motion.
All right, let's go ahead and let the citizens talk. Heather, Richard's motion was to address the comp plan first, but then he also said repeal the ordinance. But can you combine those? together?
Do we have to do go the route of the comprehensive plan first, then the ordinance?
They can travel concurrently. The comp plan takes more hearings, so that would have to be pushed ahead a little bit. But if the board voted to go forward, the final amendment of the comp plan to remove the 75-foot buffer requirement could be heard at the same meeting where you had a public hearing to repeal your
With
ordinance.
Richard's wording of his motion is my question, will that make them run concurrently? Because his motion was to change the comp plan and repeal the ordinance.
I think that's fine. That's sufficient direction.
And if we do this, okay, I just want to clarify also with Heather, if we do this, then we are then deferring back to state requirements, correct? Where, as the other counties are doing, that Florida DEP and the Northwest Florida Water Management would then control the permit process. But also another thing I want to add, that the governor passed legislation last year saying that he wanted to streamline all of the 5 management districts to all be following the same permitting process. Plus the government wanted in that legislation, the governor also wanted all of the different counties to all be following the same permitting process as the water management district. So everything, instead of having to deal with the county plus the water management plus DEP and each management district doing its own thing, the governor signed legislation to make an initiative for everybody doing the same process, and I just feel we need to follow along with that.
All right. Kim Jordan. We got a lot of speakers, so please, if you can be brief, please do so.
Well, in addition to being a property rights issue, I think it's fiscally prudent and responsible to not have all these lawsuits. We've had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of lawsuits that our county can't afford. So I think we should do it 65, there's a reason 65% of the other, or 65 other counties don't have an individual wetlands ordinance, and that's the other thing. The other thing, I guess y'all got a letter from Larry Tucker, and he couldn't be here tonight, but he strongly feels that Commissioner Kessler was intimately involved in most or all of the lawsuits and should recuse himself from this issue. So I concur with that, and I hope we can get rid of a lawsuit that's very restrictive.
Thank you.
Not a lawsuit, but an ordinance.
Robert Roddenberry.
Robert Roddenberry, 267 Curtis Mill Road, Sopchoppy. I'd like to urge you all to join in this motion to consider doing away with the wetlands ordinance for 2 primary reasons. One, it is repetitive. You're doing the same thing the state's already doing. We're just adding another layer of bureaucracy on the citizens, and I think we've got enough regulations already. Another reason is the liability. I don't think we have anybody on your staff that are qualified to tell you whether or not you can build where you want to. The state does. I think the state requirements are probably just as restrictive as the county retirements. So I'd like to urge you to have this public hearing, and I'd like to urge you also to repeal this ordinance.
Thank you. Emily Smith. Just real quick, Heather, if this does pass, you'll be bringing back a comp plan amendment, correct?
Yes, we will be bringing back, the item as it's written authorizes us to advertise it, but it would be coming back for it'd first go to planning and come to you 2 times.
Thank you.
So it's not the final meeting, there's others that will come after tonight.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioners. Emily Smith, Sopchoppy. After the last board meeting, I'd hoped that we could just draw a line in the sand and leave our wetlands ordinance alone. Unfortunately, our wetlands ordinance is the line in the sand, and you would like to do away with it. I'm really confused as to the need. I don't understand how we aren't still under Northwest Florida Water Management District and state DEP regulation, how we are somehow exempt from that. And it seems as if our ordinance, what it does for us is provide a means for local variance and a means for setback. that works. And right now, we have a stable, in my opinion, legal position that if we were to do away with it, we would lose and make the county very vulnerable to lawsuits going forward. So it seems like an unnecessary or perhaps fabricated reason to do away with our ordinance when there really isn't lack of compliance or redundancy. It's one of the things we have going for us. There was a recent radio piece about, with all the rain we've been having, dangerous levels of human waste bacteria in the water, and Wakulla County was not on that list. Most of the rest of Florida was. So I don't understand why we're necessarily racing to be like everyone else when that is a lower standard. And once we've done it, I don't see how we could ever go back. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Anderson?
Bill Anderson, 2481 Surf Road. I think you're making a huge mistake if you go forward and repeal this ordinance. I looked on your website to see if this county has a mission statement or vision statement on its website. It does not, at least I cannot find one. Leon County does have one or whatever. You should exercise some vision of where this county is going and what's going to bring people here. We don't have a major interstate going through this county. We don't have the theme parks they have in Central Florida. We don't have the beaches they have along Panama City, Fort Walton Beach, etc. What we have are certain natural resources and pristine waterways that this commission in 2010 in August, when they passed this, that was part of their vision, to preserve those, to help bring tourism into this county, to help get jobs into this county. Your Tourism Development Center, those are the 2 points they stress. If you go to their website, they have a mission statement. They have a vision. And what they're telling you is, and their headline is, where nature is our theme park to bring people here. You want to destroy that nature and the economy going forward. As Emily just said, once you destroy it, it's destroyed. You can't bring it back. You want to bring development into this county, I suppose, by allowing people to build anywhere, destroy the wetlands. That's what makes this county distinct from other counties. If you do what the state does in all other counties or whatever, there's no distinction. We don't have other things that other counties have. This is an opportunity to latch on to and have a vision. You are the people, the county residents, have elected to have that vision. I suggest that you come up with a vision statement, put it on your website, so that people, when they vote for you, when they move here or whatever, they know what the vision is in this county, not 2 years from now, 10 years from now. This ordinance was just passed in 2010 in August. You want to repeal it already to change the vision that was done then. I encourage you to exercise some vision and not do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol O'Dell?
Carol O'Dell, 96 Monocoop Circle, Panacea. Commissioners, I urge you to consider the public hearing and the repeal of the Wakulla County ordinance. I feel like the state has the people who are schooled in that area to take care of what we need to have taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck? Oh. I can put you down a list if you need to do something else.
I had to get a drink.
Okay.
Chuck S. speaking for CCAL. You know, this is basically a horrible idea. You live in one of the most important areas of the country. The coastal plain of the United States and the Gulf Coast and the Atlantic Coast has one place that really has all the rare species, that has all the, all the species and all the wildlife that used to exist on this coastal plain. And that place is right here. Now, you're talking about getting rid of our wetlands protection. Wetlands are vitally important. They're vitally important for our wildlife, for our fisheries, and for water control. Saying that you're going to go back to the state protections, guess what? The rest of Florida has the state protections. and the state protections have failed across the state. That's why we're number 4 in the country for rare species. It's because the things just don't occur there anymore. And modeling yourself after the failed, I don't want to live in Orlando, I don't want to live in Tampa, I don't want to live in those areas because of the quality of life. There isn't the fishing, the hunting, the fisheries, the shellfish, all these things that we have that they don't have. Okay, you're talking about getting rid of because you think the state does a good job. I hate to tell you, but Rick Scott just gutted most of the activities in our water management districts, reducing their staffs such that, they still function, but they function at a much lower level than they did historically, and now you want to turn our protection over to them. This is really, really a horrible idea, and I hope you kill it.
Thank you, Chuck. Walt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Walt Dixon, 97 North Lake Ellen Lane, unfortunately a neighbor of Chuck's on Lake Ellen. Mr. Chairman, we just seen tonight an example of government regulations that's not needed. We've seen an example of where Duke Energy went to the state of Florida, mitigated where they want to build a substation here in Wakulla County, which will keep improving our electrical services. They stepped through the hoops they had to do there. They mitigated with the state of Florida. It looks like they got a good plan. Now, they've got to spend extra ratepayers' money to come to Wakulla County to go through that other step of our wetland ordinance. It's just not needed. Let the state do it. Number 2, we've just found out where the United States Supreme Court has ruled against St. John's Water Management District over a wetland issue. They sided with the property owner and his property rights under the Constitution. So therefore, very important about our property rights. Some of these people that work for the government and everything never had to make a living out here on their own, they forget about property rights, I believe. And 4 of you gentlemen ran and said you would get rid of the wetland ordinance. So we appreciate it tonight if you would continue voting to let's get rid of this wetland ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry? Roberts?
Larry Roberts, Stop Shoppy. Over the years, I've spent a lot of time here at this podium talking this one issue. Short time ago, a couple of years ago, I guess, we had a group of people that was appointed, one by each commissioner, to come up with a wetlands ordinance. And they worked for, I guess it was more than 2 years ago, probably closer to 4. And they worked diligently and came up with one that was a very good ordinance. At least they think so. And most of those people in that committee were not just laymen like myself that really knows nothing about it. They had expertise in their field. They were educated people, and they were working in it. And they weren't just environmentalists either. There was at least one that was a developer of sorts. Earlier, we talked about property rights, or some of the people did. And once this piece of ground was included in the wetlands, this buffer zone, people were barred from its use. That's not true. And it's not a property right. Well, I guess it is a property rights issue. If you have a piece of property and you use that piece of property so that it contaminates my water, or erodes over my property, or erodes my property, or there's a stink, or whatever. It is a property rights issue, and it's my property rights that's being violated, not the landowner. He can't do everything he wants to do. Let's take a piece of property that was debated some time ago, the Park subdivision. And not too long ago, a couple of years I guess, there was a group of people from the Park subdivision here talking about their sinkholes developing their yards and danger to their children. And what could the commission do for them? Well, the commission couldn't do anything for them except require a couple more soil borings on those properties. This has been a problem since Wakulla Gardens. That was, Wakulla Gardens is the way it is due to mismanagement on part of past commissioners, up to the park subdivision, which their problem was mismanagement and disgrowth management on the part of the commission. I'm very familiar with that parks area. When I was a kid, I duck hunted on all those sinks and ponds in there. I think I was probably trespassing, but I didn't know it at the time. You know, a teenager you are. And the karst fissure is right at the surface, and that is one example of how, man, I'm getting cut off early. I hadn't even had an opportunity to talk about Mr. Moore, but I will say, Mr. Moore, that you're a developer, and you make money off of this. You will make a lot of money off of this if this wetlands ordinance goes away. And I say that you should recuse yourself from voting. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron?
Yes. Thank you.
Ron Piesecki, 137 Royster. Here is the chairman of the Wakulla Springs Alliance. I've had a chance to talk with a lot of you. Commissioner Harden didn't get back to me, so I didn't get a chance to talk with him. But I've sent all of you a lengthy email last week delineating the steps that we have taken for the last 3 years with the Water Management District. And so really for the new commissioners, Commissioner Harden, Commissioner Thomas, who weren't here, the other members and prior boards were very upset that the Northwest Water Management District wasn't doing what they were statutorily required to do in establishing minimum flow levels. So this board twice passed unanimous resolutions and sent it to them, demanding that they take action and establishing minimum flow levels, critical to Wakulla Springs. Nothing got done. We sent a letter to Secretary Vineyard. I get a call from the new deputy secretary. Said the secretary asked me to contact you on this. So I sat down with them, explained the issue. They had just appointed a new executive director, the Water Management District. He called him into Wakulla Springs. We sat down with their staff, our hydrologist, Dr. Todd Kincaid, which some of you know, and went over it and got a commitment from them that, yeah, we will do something. Now, what you have in front of you is a letter that they wrote recently, last year, which went over and said, oh, we interpreted the statute just to say that we had to make a schedule, not that we had to do anything. So they've admitted they didn't do anything in the past. So now they're committed to doing something. Communications just received this last week from them, saying that, you know, they're going ahead, they're getting some budget, going to work on minimum flow levels. However, we don't have any expertise in-house to do minimum flow levels. We are going to have to contract this out to a contractor from outside of our district, Water Management District, who has done one of these throughout the state. So, as critical as wetlands are to us, I hear out of different voices from a couple of you said, oh, they got all the expertise in the world. Let's let them handle all the wetlands. They can't even handle the minimum flow levels. So please, you know, until they can prove through minimum flow levels and other things, they've got new management that have committed to do things. Commissioner Harden printed it out, 73 pages, attachments. One of them is the State of Florida Wetland Program Plan for 2013 to 2016. In there, they talk about a single rule for the state. A lot of this will not be implemented until next year and the year after. So they haven't even developed all the training guidelines and had public meetings on wetland management issues. Now, I've talked with Randy on revising the comp plan. My recommendation is, let's work on revising that, keep the wetlands ordinance modified, and don't jump off the cliff and kill this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy Tedder?
I'm Sandy Tedder, South Choppy, Florida. I think this is a mistake to try to make this change, both the wetlands and the comp plan. I think wetlands are a major resource for this county. I think the only way we can protect that and make sure it's protected is with our local ordinance that we've got. I think if you want to go backwards, that we really will be a backward county. I think we've got to keep it and maybe even institute more protections. I think if you leave it up to the state and the management districts, that we'll be in a mess, just like South Florida. It's horrible down there. I think if anybody wants to have a place like they have down there, they should go there and not try to make this county look like that, because it will end up like that. I think we'll be polluted. I think it is the wrong way to go. Thanks.
Thank you. Dana Peck?
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road, which is set back more than 75 feet from the water. As I understand it, you want to abolish, to gut this wetlands ordinance because almost every other county in the state of Florida doesn't have one. So I thought it was important to come here and say that Wakulla County is not like every other county in the state of Florida. It is quite unique. And the wetlands of Wakulla County are the calling cards of Wakulla County. Saying that you want the state to protect us or protect our wetlands is saying that you don't want any protection at all. And if you want proof of that, try to find any government agency that would not agree that Florida leads the nation in destroying wetlands acreage. It does. Try to find anyone who would say that it's not true that a top wetlands expert last year was suspended from her job because she tried to protect a huge number of acres of wetlands. She was. Try to find anyone who will say that the legislation Governor Scott signed this year will not weaken wetlands protection and allow more poison and contaminants from construction. Is that what we want in this county? What is the compelling reason to gut our wetlands ordinance? Is it a compelling reason from the almost 400 homeowners in this county who've been trying for years to sell their homes? Do you want more construction to compete with them? Is it a scream from the more than almost 600 parcels of vacant land in this county that are sitting and waiting to be built on, with no more need for any more construction? We've got plenty of land for construction and no apparent demand. You have been elected for a compelling reason, and that is to protect all of us. Not just a few of your special land developer or builder friends who want to make more money, or perhaps a couple of you who want to make more money, but you have been elected, and it is your duty to protect all of the people in this county. And if you don't protect the wetlands, it is for certain we will have fewer fish. It is for certain we'll have less bird watching. It is for certain we won't have as many deer to hunt. It is for certain that all the things that make Wakulla County different from the rest of Florida will dry up and will be barren. And the people with the money will leave this county. But the rest of us will still be here with nothing. So I hope you do your duty and protect these wetlands.
Thank you. Richard Shepard?
Richard Shepard, Panacea. Good evening, gentlemen. Not only
got to repeal it. On a double note, not only that it affected me on some of my property, but also about employment. Look how much employment would have brought to the county just to, on the lands that were next to the wetlands that could not be built upon. I am in support of repealing the wetlands ordinance, and I want to basically total get rid of the wetlands ordinance.
Thank you. All right, we're done with citizens to be heard.
I want to speak on some of what was said.
Go ahead. I'm sorry?
I had a card. I gave a card.
Come on, come on. I didn't get it, but. Thank you for the
Opportunity to speak. My name's Eugene Watkins. I've lived in Wakulla County for 30 years. I've read an article in a local paper here recently that was asked the question, why does Wakulla County need special wetlands ordinance when most of the other counties don't need one? Well, I asked the question, does Wakulla County want to be a leader, or do we want to be a follower? You know, Monroe County was at this point we are right now, and for you all that don't know, Monroe County is where the keys are. They were at this point we're at right now 50 years ago. They were debating the same issue we are now, probably land rights and whether or not wetlands, the science is right, whether wetlands protects the fishery resources. Well, they decided, well, their debate ended and they didn't protect it. They didn't save their wetlands and stuff like that. And so now, I used to go to the Keys since the 1960s. We'd go down there and the water was clear and beautiful, and the fisheries, I've read articles that the fisheries are fantastic. A lot of that's gone now. Took my niece down there, I wanted her to see the Keys like I saw it many years ago. The water's green. Read an article now that when they fly over the Keys, there's a green mass coming down from the Everglades every summer from the nutrients and the nitrates. This is gone. Now, maybe we shouldn't blame those that were having that debate 50 years ago because they only had the science. They had the same science we have. They knew that nitrates cause the algae blooms and stuff like that. But what we have today is we have examples. We have the science and the examples. You've heard from many people here that in South Florida, the fisheries have been impacted, reduced. Think about the fishermen and their jobs. We talk about losing jobs. Think about the fishermen out there. Think about people that sell gear to go scalloping. Scallops are very sensitive to water quality. Anyways, so Monroe County, they made this decision based just on science. We can make it based on science and examples we see in South Florida. And I hear each side going back and forth. One side will say, you know, my property rights. And one thing I want to add, property rights. If Crystal River wants to come to me and ask me, hey, can we store nuclear waste on my property and bury it on my property? I got a feeling most of you guys, as far as property rights, are going to say, because the radioactivity is going to go affect all my neighbors. So this isn't about property rights. This is a question of whether or not you believe by examples or science, whether you believe what we're fixing to do by eliminating this ordinance or reducing it, whether or not it's going to affect the fisheries and the folks that depend on it, the people that like to come scalloping and many things you've heard here already today. It's, I like to ask, the people on both sides of this issue, do you not believe building is going to have, or not, if we don't build within the ordinance of this wetland that we have, it's going to affect the fisheries out there.
Thank you, sir.
But thank you.
I did have your card, by the way, so I'm going to blame it on Katie. Didn't it, Rainey? That was my mistake.
Thank you. My name is Dennett Rainey. I reside at 690 Coastal Highway in Wakulla County. I haven't planned to say anything tonight, but I keep hearing things that people act like what they're saying is going to carry this county forward, but what they're saying is it's going to drag it backwards. I heard a talk recently by Bobby Pierce on the school system here. We are known for an outstanding school system, and people move into this county just to put their kids in the school. And Gulf County and Franklin County, and there's one or two others he mentioned, are having all kind of problems. They're losing school children every year. They're losing funding. And he said, we're approaching that now if this county does not go forward. And I said it the last time I was up there, and I'll say it again. This county is at a crossroads right now. We are either going forward or we're going backwards. And a lot of this stuff, I want you to have that hearing. I strongly encourage you to have that hearing on the wetlands ordinance, because the more things that this county does to take it backwards, the less prosperous it's going to be. And this county has 68% of the entire land in this county is either owned by the National Forest or the Wildlife Refuge. 68%. Tell me another county in this state that 68% of it is in public land that's full of game and fully accessible at times for people to enjoy. And you're talking about doing away with wetlands where if you, well, I'm not going to get into specifics of that, but this county is at a crossroad. We're either going forward or we're going backwards. Gulf County and Franklin County are going backwards right now. They're losing students, they're losing money, and just all kind of bad things are happening there. But this county has TCC's coming in here, and we have a corridor down the middle of this county, 98 and 319, and that's where your development's going to be. And the rest of the county's undeveloped. I mean, I don't understand why you say we need all this other undeveloped county. My God, look at how much we have. It's a beautiful county. I live in Tallahassee for 60-something years, and I would, for $100, I wouldn't drive up there right now. I wouldn't. I love this county, and I want to see it stay. But we got a planning commission, and we've got a county commission to take care of these problems and not let them get out of hand. And they're not going to get out of hand.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Marcia?
Marcia Tucker, 142 O'Clockney Street, Crawfordville. I'd just like to say that I'm for doing away with this ordinance. I do agree with Dana Peck that this is a unique county because, like Mr. Rainey just said, 68% of our county is owned by either the state of Florida, the wildlife, or National Forest. And I'm thankful for that. It's a beautiful county to live in. But if we look back prior to 2010, I thought DEP was doing a fairly good job. The only thing that I've seen come out of this ordinance, if you read the Wakulla News back several months ago, was it cost the county over $600,000 for a lawsuit because of this ordinance. I, again, am for doing away with it. I hate to see the taxpayers have to pay more money for lawsuits. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with Ralph and work our way down to Howard. I'm not personally going to say anything, so I'm going to save a bunch of time.
I'm ready to vote along with Richard.
Okay? I'll vote.
All right, and I just want to add a couple more things. One thing is that y'all touched on the distinction, and one of the biggest distinctions that does separate us is the fact that we have the National Forest, we have the refuge, and we have 171,000 acres of national forest within Wakulla County borders. There's about 40,000 acres of refuge within Wakulla County borders, plus there's close to another 10,000 acres of total state land. All we have left is where we have to live and work and to drive the economy. Now, for each one of these developments, like the park subdivision and others, there's several hundred acres set aside there that it's going to be in conservation easement. We've got conservation. We've got probably over 220,000 acres of land in our county that is in perpetual conservation easement. Okay, what this ordinance has done is it has taken 75 feet of someone's property along the run of the rivers and creeks and ponds and put their private property also in a conservation easement, whether they wanted it to or not. And I just think this is really important that we do it to move forward. And There's another thing I put in the ordinance that the Florida Administrative Code requires that a regulated agency has to have a qualified staff in order to manage the wetlands ordinance. And that's one area where we have not been able to have in the county. We don't have soil scientists. We don't have qualified staff to delineate, to delineate and determine what the wetlands are and what they aren't. So for legal reasons also, I believe we need to move ahead and let this go back to being the DEP in Northwest Florida. And I don't think Wakulla's ever going to be like Fort Lauderdale or anything like some people said. What some people consider, I mean, we're a rural county. What some people consider urban sprawl in South Florida, we kind of consider growth in our area here. You know, we don't have a railroad, we don't have an interstate, we don't have the things that would cause that to happen here. You know, and in spite of this ordinance, I still believe that people, because we've got so much land that is protected, people are still going to come here for the nature of Wakulla County. Whether we have or don't have an ordinance isn't going to affect the 220,000 acres that we have that are forever protected. And I believe most of our most sensitive woodlands and wetlands have been identified and have been purchased already and are adequately protected.
Okay, Howard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first I'd like to, I wasn't planning on saying anything, but I guess I was planning on saying something about the wetlands, but there's a saying about if you keep on repeating a lie enough, it becomes a truth. These lawsuits that people are referring to in the wetlands ordinance, if they go back and they read it, it's about public records that those lawsuits were about. And maybe they should go back and read it. But we in Wakulla County need to implement plans that manage our water and our land resources in such a manner that the health and the welfare of our citizens are given priority. This is an absolute necessity if we're going to safeguard the future economic well-being of our county. For this body to weaken or to completely eliminate our county's wetland protections will not speak well for our county's future. Wetlands are the lifeblood of much of our economy, including our tourist industry. The tourists buy the seafood that fishermen fish and produce here. They frequent our restaurants, they shop in our stores, they stay in our motels, and they charter our boats. And why do people come to Wakulla County? They come because of our wetlands that produce the seafood that both the sport and commercial fishermen harvest. Our wetlands attract and feed the birds that the tourists come to watch, one of the biggest industries and money producers in the United States. Our wetlands produce the plants, animals, landscapes that the tourists come here to view. It is the wetlands that make Wakulla special and what it is. We know that the failure to protect wetlands results in less water purification for drinking and providing healthy waters for our fish and other animals. Failure to protect our wetlands increases flooding. Wetlands are Wakulla's golden goose. And we should be all aware of the state's failure, as mentioned previously, to protect our wetlands in the past. There's no sterling record out there. It's a disaster. Even when it was funded at much more, with many more employees than they have now, it was a disaster. And the state continues to cut back. And the manpower available to protect the wetlands is cut back. It's my understanding that the Northwest Water Management District has only 2 people devoted to wetlands issue in the entire Northwest section that we have. How can they do their jobs? Even if they're conscientious, even if they're the best trained, how can they possibly protect our wetlands? Any proposal to eliminate or weaken our wetlands ordinance is ill-conceived and short-sighted. It is a complete disregard for future generations. And I urge this board not to go down that path.
Gary, you wanted to say something?
I just have one clarification on my my property. I'm a registered forestry timber owner. I just sold a tract of timber today. I've worked with Fish and Wildlife, and I'm not a developer. I haven't developed anything in the county, especially subdivisions and so forth. But I am a registered, state-registered timber farmer, so, for whatever.
Okay, is that it?
No, I don't think so. One other comment, we all received today an email from Charles Patterson clarifying position of Thousand Friends of Florida.
Yes.
Okay, so he was not in support of doing...
And let me tell you what I was referring to. In his letter, and of course, this is going to throw my item out the window. I mean, mine's a moot point if this goes through. My point was that he identified in his letter, he said he believed the county had sufficient right to grant variances, and which we don't. I mean, this is totally different from what Richard's item is. We can't grant variances inside that 35 feet. We just can't because of what the comp plan language was, and that's what I was wanting to change. Of course, this will change that and more, obviously, but, so, yes. Okay, any more? All for the motion? Aye?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1 against.
Do we get-
I just assume you're against them.
Well, let me register my vote, please. No.
Okay, thank you. 4-1. All right. Ralph?
You want to do citizens to be heard?
Yes, you're right. I even had it written down on my thing here, and I totally messed it up. Chuck? And then Larry, you're next, and that's it. You gonna pass? Yeah. Okay.
You know, it's kind of discouraging to get up and talk to you guys. Chuck Hess, 112 Lake Ellen Circle. It's sad you make decisions the way you are, because you have to recognize it's not what we, I was trained in forestry, Mr. Moore, and when you manage a forest, it's not what you cut that's important, it's what you leave that's important. And what we're going to do is we're going to go forward with development in the county, and it's not about what we develop, it's about what we leave within our development. What kind of structure does this development have for supporting all the amenities that we would like to have in our community? And your decision, where you're moving right now, is to make those sterile communities, and that, I don't think, is what our public wants. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lambu, before you sit down, you're next.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm sorry I didn't get to speak on the previous motion, but I will comment. You are embarking on killing the golden goose that is made Wakulla County. If you do away with your wetland protection, this is what our economy is based on. Tourism is the seafood that the restaurants serve. So what are you going to get in return for this? Urban spread, so forth. Gentlemen, you're making a big mistake. You are killing the golden goose that makes this county.
Thank you. All right, Ralph, you're next. Yeah, we're done.
Very good. At a previous meeting, we voted to consider options for hiring a new Tourist Development Council director. At that point, we decided to move forward with a independent contractor, and we asked the TDC to bring back options of how that would look and different ways that individual could be paid. We have that here. At that meeting, we also discussed that the TDC had recommended that we base a total contract package on 55% of the gross anticipated revenue, which is currently $90,000. 55% of that amount would equate to $49,500.
I don't want to interrupt you, but what's the ratio now, roughly? Or what was it 6 months ago? Roughly.
I don't have it in front of me.
I wonder if it's 80% or... No, sir, you don't get to make point of orders. I don't know what it was.
I believe the income is down, so right now, if you had that, it's off, but you're also
When we get a motion and
summer months.
you got a card filled out, you can answer then, okay?
Currently, realizing we went through the winter months, summer months are here, the income right now is down for the TDC, but you haven't got the full effect of the summer.
I'm just wondering if it's comparable to
So-
what it was, or if it's a little less money.
Well, it's hard, like I said, it's hard to tell.
You can answer that.
I think he's talking about more previous years.
Oh,
than-
I'm sorry.
than-
I'm
than
sorry.
year-to-date.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we definitely hashed that out at the last meeting, and I didn't bring that with me this time, so, I mean, we can bring that back. So what we did come up with is 3 recommendations, and assuming that 55% recommendation and a gross package of $49,500, option number 1 would be to hire a full-time TDC director, have a single staff person, and that's all they do, at an income of $49,500. Option 2 would be a full-time TDC director at less salary, at $15.29 per hour, 40 hours a week, a salary of $31,803. Also maintain a part-time TDC assistant at 20 hours a week times $12, and then a part-time social media assistant at 10 hours a week and $10 per hour. So that would be a total package of $49,500. Option number 3 would be a 20-hour part-time TDC employee, similar to what we've had previously. Our prior TDC director made $35 an hour. This recommendation would be to drop that to 20 hours a week and $22 an hour, with a total salary of $22,880. Maintain a lower-paid TDC assistant, 20 hours a week, $12 an hour, total of $12,480, and a part-time social media assistant, 10 hours a week, $10 an hour. And also to build in $8,940 in reserve, so not spend that entire compensation package. That would give us a lower-paid TDC director. That would put $8,900 in reserves, knowing that we would have the flexibility that if someone needed overtime, if we needed to authorize travel to a trade show or something like that, we've got that money there.
And this is what the TDC preferred. Do you mind if I let Hugh go ahead and
No,
talk
absolutely.
even before we have him?
Yeah.
Hugh, come on up.
I guess if I didn't mean to interrupt, I wouldn't have. I'm sorry, but I did have a point of order, and it was 75%. But you want me to, I've signed a card for this.
Yeah, this, I'm gonna.
Oh,
go
you're
ahead and talk.
counting it against my time, all right.
For whatever your minute,
All right.
your time is.
So I'll see your ratios and raise you some more ratios. The last meeting, because I'm kind of a bug on this thing, last meeting, Mary and I were out of town, so I was unable to attend. This is the one organization, you guys harp over and over and over, that government should be run by, like a business. This is the one organization in government, one of the few, that should be and can be run like a business, but not with ratios of administrative expenses to gross income that we've seen in the past, or that's on the table tonight. As your plan now stands, you're at 55%. The old ratios varied between, like I said, 75 and 90%. The plan, we're going to talk about oversight in a minute, but the plan that was voted on had the 75% administrative figure in it. If your goal is in establishing and or protecting the position of the TDC director, your task is well underway. And if you look on your goal, or the goal of the TDC to develop tourism, then you fail. My first proposal is to divorce the TDC and tourist development from grant money. I don't know how that slipped in, but if the proposed
advertisement in the paper is correct, the one that came with the agenda item, then it's pretty comprehensive. You have a good grants department. The county can get the grant and administrative fees from the grants, and that's what you guys should be aware of. And the other suggestion would be to pay a reasonable part-time salary in the range of $20,000 per year total compensation to a director that would work with the TDC board, split the duties of marketing and advertising, and have $20,000, which is approximately 20% more of overhead available for the purpose of the TDC, which is marketing, advertising, and promotion, as opposed to keeping a director fat and happy. And if the TDC board does not want to take on the duties that any nonprofit board would take on, then they don't have to be on the board. So what you got then is a $30,000 extra freed up for marketing and advertising. No threat to the county's grant writing position or process. A wonderful way for the county to improve their ancillary money through administering these grants and put more money where it needs to be, and that's into tourism. We've heard a lot about short-sighted, and I believe the last discussion I heard oversight mentioned. Oversight after the fact? No, oversight is right now. What you are setting in motion. If nobody got a copy of the Wakulla audit for their TDC, that says it all. You know, a fairly big percentage of those oversight items were before and not after the fact. It was going in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chuck? I'm going to go ahead and let him talk.
Good evening, gentlemen. Chuck Robinson, Wakulla County Chamber. I think when you look at these figures and you consider the course of business, as Mr. Taylor was speaking to, if you look at business, strictly making a business decision on this, you're getting a great deal on this. It's going to be hard as it is to find numbers like this to try to attract a great marketing person that you're seeking out. Nevertheless, you still have those numbers that are up there that are good enough. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Ralph, did these numbers, this person wouldn't get admin fees from grants that they administer, is that correct?
No, and I'd like to start out by agreeing with Mr. Taylor regarding the grants. I think we agreed collectively that the grants position would stay with the county and the TDC director would not be writing grants. What the attachment says is we're looking for grant experience, including oversight of program contracts and grant documents. You know, based on the direction of the board at our last discussion, it's not my understanding that we want to task the TDC director to be a grants writer, so he and I can agree on that. But it's still beneficial to have that experience.
And this position, no benefits, is whatever that hour salary is, that's it?
Exactly. No insurance, no...
Cell phones, travel, car, I mean, travel, I guess if you're on TDC business, but...
It would have to be paid out of the TDC budget.
Standard rates, whatever the state uses, no...
Absolutely.
Cell phone or anything like that?
Absolutely.
A contractor?
Contractor.
Okay, if you want to make a motion, go ahead.
Yes, based on the direction of the TDC board, I recommend that we approve option number 3.
I second the motion.
Howard, do you want to?
I do want to add one more thing also.
Go ahead.
Just for just for awareness, this 90,000 in TDC revenue, this is one of the only departments that we have for the county where the money from this primarily doesn't come from Wakulla County. This money, nearly almost every bit of that 90,000 comes from other citizens from other counties that whenever they come here and they stay, and this is generated in bed tax money, and this is just the base amount of 90,000. And we have a good history of getting grants in the past. I believe we'll have a good history of getting grants in the future. I think option 3 is going to give us the best for our money. I completely agree with Commissioner Thomas. We just want to make that point that this 90,000 almost totally comes from outside of our county. That's one thing that separates it from all of our other departments.
Gary, go ahead.
Basically, I'm probably going to vote against it because my idea is that the county should be involved in this, and that the TDC needs a marketing person, more or less. So I'll probably vote against it.
Howard, you got anything to say?
I agree with Commissioner Moore.
You agree with Jerry?
Yes.
Wow, write that down. All right, all for the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2. Okay, Ralph?
Next item affects one property owner. Mr. Charles Corbin owns a piece of property on Woodville Highway, just south of the county line. I'll go into as much detail as we need to, but basically it appears that there's some confusion about what the current zoning is or should have been. Mr. Corbin had an opportunity to rent his property to someone who's looking to do an automotive repair facility. He contacted the county and they said, you can't do that because your property is zoned as a PUD. Well, he didn't even know what a PUD was or how that came about. When he looked back at his documents, he built that building after he purchased the property, and all of the documents that he built, it said that the current zoning was a C2. I worked with Melissa, and I know that she's been very cooperative, and it looks like that there's a lot of confusion, that it's hard to pin down when it happened, why it happened. We've got documents that show that it was an RR1 designation. Mr. Corbin would not have been able to build his property as it sits now in an RR1 or a PUD, but somehow it was able to move forward, and he was under the impression that it was a C2. I don't know how it happened or who was involved. What I'm asking for tonight is that we just allow him to move forward with an application to take it to C2. Whether it's a C2 or not, it's no fault of his, and so I'm asking that we just waive the fees. He'll be also bringing a second application to request a conditional use to allow his tenant to have an automotive repair. That'll be considered separately. He will have to fully pay for that one, and he understands that. He'll pay for that one. I'm just asking that we waive the fees to correct this mistake.
Okay, is that your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Motion and a second. Go ahead, Howard.
Well, can we define what the mistake was? Was it actually a mistake? Do we have minutes of the meetings or videos or something to describe what actually took place?
I'm not aware of any videos. I did include some minutes in the package. Let's pull those up here.
Well, I think even with the mistake made in '04, he pulled a permit, and I looked at the DPA, and the DPA clearly states it was C2, and staff signed off on it, so he thought he had C2. And when he may not have had this guy approach him or whatever, he was led to believe it was C2.
Well, what I'm concerned about is if there was a scenario that when he went to do whatever he wanted to do and there was opposition from the neighbors, and planning and zoning trying to help him says, listen, you can get around this or you can do this with a PUD, and if that was the scenario, then even though that paperwork by the county saying C2 was in error, he got what he wanted, because the ability to move forward, as opposed to if there was neighborhood opposition, which I don't know because I wasn't able to find any of that.
Which you're speaking of the original property owner now, not the guy Ralph's talking about.
Right.
And if I could address that, if that mistake happened, it looks to me, based on everything that I see, it didn't happen as a result of the planning department. In one instance, it came before the board as a request to rezone it as C2, and then the minutes clearly reflect that they approved it as a PUD. Now, we don't have a video, so I'm not sure how that changeover happened there, but I don't think the planning staff asked them to change it as PUD, but the board may very well have. I don't know.
Ask them a question. Can you change your zoning request on the spot? In other words, can you, today, if you applied for C2, could you say, look, if you don't give me C2, I want PUD? Can you legally even do that now, or you got to go back through the process?
We wouldn't do that today. I don't know if that's what happened. I have no idea what happened.
I don't either.
Well, so what's the difference in fees that we're talking about here, from going one direction, going another direction?
Let's see. $960, is that what it was?
I think that's right.
Yeah. And keep in mind that he'll pay another,
$940.
he'll pay $940 for the second application. I'm just asking to waive this one. And if this was his fault, or if he got what he asked for, I wouldn't be speaking up on his behalf, and I wouldn't ask that. But it's very difficult to determine where the mistake happened, and so it's clear to me that it's not his mistake, because every document that I can find, he thought he was in a C2 until recently when he asked for this.
And he got a building permit for a building that can only be built in C2.
Says it was C2. That's right.
He got a CO on it.
If he wasn't in C2 at the time that building was built, then there was a mistake there. It shouldn't have been allowed as a PUD or an RR1.
I can go along with it.
It's difficult guessing of what went on, and again, we're asking the county to take a loss. If that's the case, I don't know. I mean, that's why I was asking about these fees. If he just stayed, he has a PUD, if he went down the path of PUD and paid the fees of a PUD versus if he had commercial, you're saying that the difference would have been $900?
Well, we have no evidence that he ever pursued a PUD. The minutes that I referred to, the prior owner applied for C2. The minutes say that it was approved as a PUD contingent upon submitting a plan. The plan was never submitted. No one has any record. So even if we go back and say that it was approved to be a PUD, if it didn't meet the conditions that go along with that, then it could not have gone to a PUD. If we can't show that a plan was ever submitted by anyone, then it never even should have been a PUD.
The best I could figure out on that, when I read the original application, the reason for the rezoning was to increase the property value of the original owner. So maybe what happened, I don't know if it was done legally or not, is you got here and they said, well, we don't know what he's going to build. Well, make him do a PUD where you have to bring a plan in, show him what you're going to build. I don't know. Evelyn, I hope you remember, but.
You signed the stuff there,
Evelyn, what exactly happened?
That's exactly what they used to do.
Is that we don't know what you're going to build, so we'll approve a PUD instead of a whatever? But, so I understand that, and then your point has validity then. It was probably done PUD for a reason. But in 2004, when this new guy owns it, he has all evidence to lead him to believe it's C2, irregardless of what happened back in the day. So that's the reason I'm...
So does the condition thing, Commissioner Thomas, that said he gets this zoning, or does he get the zoning if he submits a plan? Is that what you...
No, he's saying zone it to C2.
C2, which would not require a plan.
Go back to what the board directed him to in the original move to rezone. I thought I understood that he got PUD, but he had to submit a plan.
The prior owner, not the current.
The prior owner. The prior owner never submitted a plan, therefore there was never a PUD and there was never commercial.
Sold the property.
To the best we can tell, never submitted a plan. No one has any record of it. If Mr. Corbin could find a plan and bring it forward, then I guess there would be justification that it should be a PUD, but no one has any record of that plan.
Mr. Corbin bought the property, then went to the building department to build a building that exists today, and they told him he was zone C2.
He paid for and received a DPA that said the current zoning was C2. He paid for and received a building permit that said it was C2. The building was inspected, he was allowed to build it, so who dropped the ball? Hard to say, but I can't see that it was his fault.
Building was built when?
2004.
And it's laid dormant for this amount
No,
of time?
he's used it. He has a land clearing company, and so, like a lot of businesses, he's looking to generate additional revenue, and I guess he just doesn't need the facility at this point.
But the next proposed use has to go through a conditional use,
That's right.
which
So
is an automotive repair shop.
that'll be subject to approval.
Totally different process.
And it's also, if that's approved, it's going to relocate jobs from Leon County to Wakulla County if we approve the second, the conditional use.
I'm just uneasy with the whole process, but
All this is to waive the fees.
Correct.
And that's all the county can do, right? I mean, we can't expedite it any more than that. Okay, so you made the motion?
Yes.
Commissioners, I just wanted a clarification. There's also the certified mail-outs that have to be done if you want the county to pay for that or the applicant. We just need that clarified.
I don't think that he should bear any of the financial burden because it looks like he built his existing property thinking he was in a C2, and, it's up to us to, or whoever's in the position before, to catch that and stop that if there was a mistake and it didn't happen.
Let me ask Louis something. Typically, would the applicant physically mail it themselves, or would they pay for you to mail it?
They would mail it and bear that expense.
We're not talking about a lot of money on that, are we, I assume?
It depends on how many properties are around it, but in this area, probably not very many.
28 is what we were told.
Well, instead of having staff...
$140.
Instead of having staff actually physically stuff the envelopes and mail them, you want to just tell them you'll reimburse them for... Or you want them to do it?
If we can authorize reimbursement, that'll be fine.
That'll save y'all staff time, right? Summer not having to send out 28 certified letters?
Yeah.
Is that fine with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So waive physical fees that you got to pay, and then reimburse him for his mail out. Does that make y'all happy? Sure. Is there a second?
I think Jerry's
already
seconded it.
Okay, is there any more discussion?
Yeah, I mean, that's why you just put it out.
Modify your second.
Accept his modification?
Yes, I do.
All for the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 4-1. All right. David, you wanted to add something on?
Heather, you don't have anything? Okay. Yes, I have a agenda item I'd like to walk on. It's to request board approval to extend the Kimley Horn contract that we have for the airport master plan, the work they're doing on the airport master plan, basically due to some delays in trying to set up meetings with the public and trying to get everything right. We've realized a few delays. Doesn't affect anything other than their contract, and we'd like to extend their contract to the end of September to perform those delays. It's just a contract extension. Doesn't cost us anything extra.
Is there a motion on this?
I make a motion that we accept it.
second.
Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Go ahead, Richard.
Hold on. What? We're gonna take
I did not vote for it.
Oh, motion passes 4-1.
One thing real quick. Today it came to our attention that there's the Tide Creek Bridge on Mash Island Road, Mash's Sands Road. There's some logging going on Mash Island. They're hauling 40-ton trucks over a 24-ton rated bridge. I'm going to be sending a letter to DOT requesting them to enforce the 24 tons, as that bridge does have structural problems with it.
Mike Turner did a lot of work on that.
That's right, and therefore we're really concerned about that, so I'm going to be sending that letter to make sure you guys don't have any problems with that.
Okay.
Has the logging been stopped?
As of right now, I understand the logging has been stopped, yes.
I spoke to the landowner, and they're fully aware that they were over limit. They didn't realize they were before, and they fully intend to comply. We're not going to have any problem. They understand that. Now that they know that they were over limit, they will correct that.
What do you just put less logs on the truck?
Yeah.
Or a smaller truck. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Brad, you got anything you want to talk about?
No.
Jerry?
Just briefly. Let's see. Okay, there's a little ice cream stand in Panacea next to the parking lot for the boat ramp. They sort of went in business, and the county moved down and put them out of business. The property was originally residential, and then it was commercial, and somehow they allowed, there was some time lapse, and I understand it's 6 months. If a residential property has been commercial, and there's a time lapse of 6 months, it goes back to residential. So we told them that they couldn't continue, and I was talking with some folks, and it seems like that if they need to maybe just reapply for a commercial on that piece of property, because it's next to our boat ramp, Gus Specimen's across the road, and it was commercial for a long time. And I'm just going to ask them if they will come back and apply for rezoning, to rezone that. So I just wanted to pass that across.
Okay. Everybody remember, our next meeting is at 6, not 5, for all you at home. I know this is kind of like a reality show, so we don't want anybody to miss anything. Some time ago, I brought up this idea about putting a referendum on about nonpartisan commissioner elections. Do y'all have any thought? Andrea, I know what your thought is.
Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you my word. I don't want any part of it.
Howard, I think you said you had some concerns with it, too.
I'm open to discussion on it, but I'm not looked into a position.
Ralph, you got any thoughts? Or
Well, I know a lot of counties do it, and, you can still, if the person is a registered Republican or Democrat, so I really don't see any vital use for it,
Well, of course, what I was suggesting, that it would be a referendum, and the citizens would decide if they wanted to do it or not us. We wouldn't vote on it. But if there's not any support to do that, I'm not going to waste anybody's time on it. Louis had expressed to me, maybe we ought to ask DOT if we can get a sign for Crawfordville. I think you said Panacea's got one, right?
That's right.
Newport has one.
Newport, none of those are incorporated towns, but we don't have, we have a delineated gateway now, right, inside our Crawfordville town, whatever? And where would the sign, if they did give us a sign that said Crawfordville, where would it go, Louis, do you think?
Well, we could put it at the boundaries of the core, or wherever we decided Crawfordville was for DOT purposes.
Okay, we've decided a couple of different boundaries, I think, the core and then the overall. I would say probably the big one would, since it's just a sign, I mean, DOT it'd be a DOT sign, so is there a head nod to just request that maybe DOT put us up a sign?
Sure.
Yeah.
Why can't we, with all due respect, why can't we design and put our own sign up?
Well, this would be maintained by them also, so.
It's the same difference. We should be able to put up a nicer sign.
Well, when you say "we," what do you mean? Do you mean the board?
Well, no, I mean, let's say TDC. They're our tourist development, and they're interested in the appearance of the county and so forth, so.
Well, we're gonna be real careful, and trust me, I know about this. So Smith Creek gonna call me and say, y'all need to come put a sign up that says, "Welcome to Smith Creek," if you're gonna spend TDC dollars on it. If it's just a DOT sign,
All right.
we're not paying for it.
Yeah, okay, good.
If we ever do get organized as a Crawfordville downtown business district and they want to put us, more power to them. But
Okay.
I think we'll be stepping on a lot of toes if we spend.
It'll just be an unincorporated sign, like Georgia has a lot of those.
Panacea has.
Yeah.
Just like Panacea.
Not a problem.
Now, on the Crawfordville plan, my thoughts on this were, we have the overlay district that we formulated that offers all kind of incentives and gives you a lot more freedom on things you can do with your property. For example, zero lot lines, shared parking. Under that plan, Winn-Dixie could redevelop, or Ace Hardware could redevelop their parking lot to make out parcels out of. But our comp plan doesn't have land use designations that allow us to use those incentives. They're not requirements, they're incentives. If you do this, you can have less parking. If you do this, you can share parking. So I'd like to give Louis direction to come back with a plan, either new comp plan, future land use designations, or something, at least in the core, that will allow us to use these incentives that are in this overlay district. That we, of course, y'all know Ms. Arts worked really hard on this town plan, and we approved these incentives, but we can't use them.
I don't have any problem with the town plan so long as there's not any part of it that's mandatory. for
Not
someone to
mandatory,
do.
it's all incentives. If you do this, you'll need, you know, if you have a bike rack out in front of your place, you'll have 10 less parking spots. Very business-friendly, I think.
I like the incentive aspect as well.
I like the incentive and voluntary aspect of it.
Howard, are you nodding your head yes to?
Yeah, it's sort of circling around. I like the incentive part of it also, but I'd like to have more information before I give a unanimous vote.
Okay, well, I mean, is that good enough to start coming up with something? We're not voting on anything right now,
Well,
but
I thought we're voting to give direction to staff to do work of the board.
well, there's nothing to either approve or disprove, because he doesn't even have anything to propose for us to approve or disprove.
Yeah, the town plan actually does recommend future land use amendments to allow higher densities and more urban-type development
And
in
that plan has been
Crawfordville.
approved by a past board, right?
That's right, that plan is
I don't even know if we need to do
approved.
this, okay?
See, that's part of the information I need to gather.
So I would ask then that we move forward with that then and do what we approved to do with the town plan, which is make the new future land use districts, or start working on them. To take advantage of that.
Well, so I'm not totally understanding what we're doing here when we say we can direct staff if there's a unanimous position of the board. It seems like we're directing staff, but we don't have a unanimous decision of the board.
Well, and what he said was the adopted town plan, right, had in it that the county shall make new future land use designations.
That's right.
Okay? So that's in the plan for him to do that.
Correct.
I'm just giving him a little nudge.
Well, that's you giving him a little nudge, but not the board giving him a little nudge. And I know it may be a fine distinction, but I think it may be become more important in other matters as well. What I think should happen in this case is that it should come back as an agenda item to give this direction to staff, because unless Lee has plenty of time on his hands and he's getting paid for sitting around, he's going to be working on this project if we give him that direction. And I think it should be the board giving him that direction.
I mean, is that appropriate, David, that we have to have a agended, voted on item for staff to proceed with something they've already been given direction on? If it is, then I'll bring it back as an agenda item.
That would probably be the best.
Okay, I'm not saying make it a priority and stop everything you're doing, but
Let me ask you a question. This is probably totally out of the whatever. Is there any way that incorporating in the town plan that we can have some sort of statement that you can't have a metal front on your building, just that your building should be made of something other than just a metal front? Because a metal front looks like whatever. You could have stucco, you could have hardy board, you could have block, brick, whatever.
There's a lot of communities that do that, and you're diving into architectural standards then?
Well,
That's up to you guys.
Okay, I'm just saying, it's not you don't have to be a rocket scientist to
I
say,
agree with you. It looks
no metal on the front of your building. Not, whatever.
You can propose that, yes, sir.
Because metal just looks so bad. If you come down the street and everybody's got a flat-faced piece of metal, you can do better than that.
Like our community center?
yes, exactly.
Well, basically, yes, you can do better than that. But especially on 319, I hate to get into this, but 319 needs to look good. We have a town plan in order to make Crawfordville look good. And a metal-faced building does not look good. I can name 4 or 5 metal-faced buildings that don't look good, but I won't. But,
Well, I'll bring back an agenda item then to direct staff to work on the projects that the past board has voted for them to work on. Is that basically what I'm doing?
Yes.
I understand.
Okay, that's the way we're gonna operate. I'll bring it back an agenda item.
One of the things that we're going to be doing as well is, we've put it off, but this will be the year to do it, is we're going to be bringing to the board the TIF funding for Crawfordville Town Plan to you guys
all the pros and cons, but to get that, if we're going to do it, this is the year to do it. This coming up tax year will be the year to do it. Also, Panacea has requested a TIF for them as well, and we're collating all the information for that, so we'll be bringing that to you.
Now, this doesn't mean by our non-action, Louis already has direction from a past board to work on it. If he had planned to work on this tomorrow, he's not supposed to stop now, is he? Because I haven't brought an agenda item for him to work on something that the board's already approved.
Right.
Okay.
Well, are we back to that other item right now, or are we on the TIFs?
No, I was finishing my rant. but
Okay, but I think there's a distinction there. There are lots of things that the board has voted to do that may not be done. What we're doing right now, possibly, is prioritizing that. And that is what the board needs to vote on, to say, okay, begin this work.
Well, I didn't want to
The work is there.
prioritize it. I said I didn't want to prioritize it. I didn't want him to put it in front of anything else. Just, what's the status of it? Maybe I should have asked for a status report.
There you go.
Can I get a 5-0 on a status report?
Yeah.
There is no status, right?
Well, actually, I mean, it is a priority. I mean, that was something we were planning on working on, but, I'm going to be bringing Chapter 5 updates and things like that to you in the next meetings. But, yeah, it is in the works, and it is a priority, and I agree.
Let us just take it
Even
from
without
there.
more direction.
You don't have to-
Good idea.
Yeah.
Richard, you got anything you want to talk about? Howard?
Oh,
Huh?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You said no for a second.
actually, I said well, but it came out like, so, I had an item on the discussion here, budget cuts, salary increases, and taxes, and I'm still very concerned about the board's philosophy in dealing with monies that we rightfully may be eligible to collect and don't pursue, from the sheriff's, prior sheriff's expenditure of $100,000 and not trying to recoup that, to not being able to give our own employees adequate raises, although we are trying to elevate the lowest of our ranks right now, and I think that's the way, that's a proper way of doing that across the board, since we don't have the money to do it. We have all these expenditures that are coming in, which we voted for tonight, and I voted along with them, they're needed, okay? But, $600,000 for this building, $200,000 a year for the next 3 years to clean up the soil that's been messed up under it, whatever it was, $300 and some odd thousand for the projects that we just approved this evening, plus. I think that we need to have more of a discussion about, what is appropriate for the board to be doing in relationship to all three, but I'm going to leave it to the budget workshop.
Thank you. All right, you got a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Good job on this.